Today I'm deploying a RAG microservice to Google Compute Platform. The goal is for you to be able to go to my Discord server and ask any question you want about my YouTube videos. And it's going to use RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation, to source that information and provide an answer in a generative way. It's the whole idea of RAG, and I'm going to integrate that with my Discord bot. So you could ask a question like, how do I get started with Docker? Or show me a basic LangGraph implementation. And then the RAG system is going to look up the best match for that in my YouTube transcripts and then pull that information together for you in an answer. And so this is live in my Discord server right now, and you can go over there to check it out. I made a previous video where I break down exactly how I built this RAG microservice on VertexAI. And if you're coming over from that video, we're going to pick up exactly where that left off and launch this RAG AI microservice and integrate it like I discussed over on that one. That video would be really useful if you want to be able to build one of these systems for yourself. So in today's video, you're going to learn about deploying these applications, but also building these integrations. I'm going to be using AI tools, and I'm going to try and stick inside of NeoVim today and use Avante to do this in order to build these into Docker APIs. So let me show you what I mean with the diagram, and then we'll get into the demonstration. So when the Discord user asks a question, that will get handled by the Discord bot, which is running on this Google Compute VM. And this Discord bot is going to have access to a RAG AI microservice, which we're going to deploy today, and that it's going to access that over a Docker network. So I'll show you how that works. This has all of my YouTube video transcripts, and that explains how this has contextual knowledge about my YouTube videos, including this video I'm making right now. These words will live inside of this video transcripts bucket once I finish editing and transcribe this video and so on, and then that will get incorporated into my RAG AI microservice vector database, which will be able to be accessed through Discord. So I'll start by talking about my RAG microservice. That's called Zazenbot 5000. This is open source, so you can find all of this code online. And we're going to start with the Docker Compose file. So this makes this service available as an API. So I've got this API running inside of my Python library in this app.py file. So this is a fast API, and if I sort of scroll down, we can see it's making this query endpoint available where it takes in a question, so some string, a question from the user, and it passes that question here into this process question function. If I follow that, that opens this file, query rag with metadata. That's going to be this file right here, and it just runs this process question. So this is running my RAG system. So let me go back to the Docker Compose. So this is making that available. It's making that application available through means of this Docker file. So if I go to the Docker file, this is where we sort of set up the fast API dependencies and stuff, and I'm running the fast API server here with this last line. What I want to do is extend this with the Docker network. So I want these two to be able to speak over a Docker network. So let me see if I can get Avante to help me do that. So I'm going to open it up here. So I'm going to say add a network so this service can talk to other ones. Document how that would work in a file, integration guide.md. Let's fire that off. So here it's showing my model, Claude 3.7 Sonnet. Okay, so Avante's improved quite a lot since I made my sort of introduction video last fall, and it has a lot of tool calling abilities. So it's asking me right now what to do. So down here I can do Control WF to focus on that if I'm not already there. So now, okay, now I'm down here, Control WF. So now I'm in here, and I can be like, yes, I want to do that. So I'm going to say yes. And so it's replacing a file, successful. Okay, so it's added my Zazenbot network down here. And now it's probably going to be writing this file that I asked it to write. So I'm like, write me this integration guide. And so it's doing that. So I'll be like, yeah, sure, create this file. Yeah, so it seems like it's still thinking, added a Docker network, create an integration guide. So it sort of summarizes what it did. So it's a very cursor-like experience. Admittedly, pretty janky relative to Cursor or even Klein, but you get to stay inside of NeoVim, and it's totally open source. So that's really cool. And so here's the integration guide that it built. I like these example integrations. This is exactly what I'm looking for. So with my other service, I'm just going to try and use this same network right here. And if I go back to my Docker Compose, this network is being sort of attached right here onto my service. Actually, what I could do is go ahead and build this. So I'm going to say Docker Compose up, build, and we're going to just make sure this is going to run. So I'm going to open up another pane. We'll be able to run a curl request against this. Let's try Avante again. Add some documentation for testing the API locally. Curl. I'm going to go to selected files here, and I can type et. And so this will let me like add something. And so I'm going to add the context of, let's say, my Docker file. And I'm also going to add another file, and I'm going to add my app. Yeah, add it to README. Let me open this big so we can watch what's going on. And I'm going to reopen Avante. It's working on the README file right now, and it's finished. And now it's generating something else. You can press tab. So if I press tab, I can get around these files. And it's generating, I thought we already did the README. Okay, so I'm going to do WF to focus, type yes down here. And now I think it's done. So let's go to my README and see what it added. Okay, so here's like some tests that it wrote for me. So I can go ahead and run this one. What is RAG? Sure, or let's, testing with complex queries. Okay, let's give that one a shot. Okay, so we're gonna do a post request to the local host, sure, with this content type, application JSON. Okay, so it didn't properly call, oh yeah, because I didn't call it Google Credentials. That's an issue. So I've got this credentials folder here, and I have these credentials which are just named this. So what I need to do is call those Google Credentials.json. Now, since this is a volume, that should immediately get picked up, and that should fix that error. So if I just go back, I should be able to run this. Sending question to RAG system. Okay, so we're getting a whole bunch of logs up here. So this should be working, and I should get the response. There it is. AI engineering will focus on agents in 2025. Agents can be controlled. So this is my learn how to build tool calling agents with LangGraph. And it gives me a link to that video and a link to the source code. This is what I'm going to make available in Discord. And if I open up the video, yeah, it's linked me right to the end of one of my videos. Great, so this API is working. And now I want to integrate this with the Discord bot. So let's go to that. And I'm going to open up Vim, and we'll look at the README for that. So here's my trivia bot, and we're gonna extend this. It's just gonna be a bot now that can do other things. And in particular, if I go into the bot code, this main file, this is where all of the stuff happens with my bot. And I have these Discord events, and we sort of listen for different events like on member join. So I'm gonna wanna add something to this file where we are able to like respond to users. And I'm gonna see if Avante can take care of that for me. And I'm going to make a pretty detailed prompt here. Extend my Discord bot so that whenever a user asks a question in any of the channels on my Discord server and tags the Discord bot, like pings them with the @ symbol, I want to route that question into an endpoint to handle it here. Okay, so I've got that ready. I got to say, like, even just compared to cursor, like this input is kind of rough. Like, what is submit there? It's not, I can't tell. I guess what I really should do is probably not draft my question in here. Yeah, so what I'd rather do is just draft it up in here, and then I can just paste it into Avante when I'm ready. I need you to call an API that I'm running through a Docker network. So you'll also have to modify the README file in order to make sure that this network is properly shared so that this function works. Okay, so you will call the endpoint. So let's go back. So let's grab this information. Come back to my prompt. Make sure you attach the Docker service to the network. And this is my network. And for the endpoint here, I want to also include some documentation about how to use it. So over in my README file, I had like an example. So let's, throw that in. Here's an example. Okay, so this is, pretty ugly, but that's what AI is good at. It doesn't always have to be really pretty. So let's prompt this in here. And we're running Claude 3.7. Away we go, generating. Okay, so Avante is running a whole bunch of tools. It seems to be looking at, oh, I'm in the wrong directory. Oh, this is a shit show. Must be so confused. Oh man. Okay, how do I stop this thing? Okay, so now that I've got my prompts ready to go, we're gonna grab this, paste it in here, and fire this off. Seed my rate limit, Anthropic. Okay, that's not great. Let's start a new chat and try it again. Yeah, that's another benefit of Cursor. You don't have to worry about rate limits. Okay, of course I could wait a little bit, or I could change my model to an OpenAI model, but I really don't want to do that. I really want to use Claude for this. Okay, let's go to Claude 3.5. In order to do that, I can open up a new pane, go to my NeoVim configuration, let's see, Avante is here, and I'm using Claude, but I can specify exactly what model I want to use. So instead of 3.7, I'm going to say 3.5, and then latest should work as well for me. So, okay, so that's should be good to go. I'm just going to have to restart NeoVim. So get out of here, restart this, open up Avante, and let's try with this one. So I've got the same prompts. I'll fire that off. Ooh, what's going on here? Maximum output tokens. Look how many tokens I don't even understand this. Okay, maybe it's the same problem. What I could do is just open up VS Code and let's try Klein with this. Okay, so here I get my Klein going, paste the same prompt in. So I'm using 3.7. Let's see if it works. Klein it's going to have access to all of the context here. Now, I'd imagine that I'm going to get the same rate limit errors here, but no, so it seems to be working fine in Klein for some reason. And like, just look at this experience, right? I get that we're not in NeoVim, but oh man, like it's such a better developer experience, especially tracking the cost. That's the biggest thing that I like about Klein. But it's not just about the cost. I mean, look, I can just sort of, anyway. I love NeoVim, but it needs some work. The NeoVim env needs a bit of work to catch up on these AI features. Okay, so it's going ahead and editing my bot. And this is the part I'm most interested in, is the README, because here's where we're going to attach our network. Yeah, okay, cool. So we're going to have to make sure we make this API URL available. And this works because of our network. That's why I wanted to use a Docker network. Then I could reference this API through the name. So instead of using localhost here, I'm using the name of that service. And then this isn't actually going to have to be exposed on my computer through this port. It will just be exposed through the internal Docker network. So it's a more secure way of doing things. Let me go back to my README and I'll show you what I was interested in doing. So here, where I'm running the Docker container, I'm setting this environment variable. Oh, here we go. I'm setting the network to Zazenbot network. That should allow these two things to talk to each other. So here's this section that Klein added for us in order to, have this functionality in our application. You can see in my NeoVim environment, I have these git diff sort of lines. So you can see where it's added new code. For example, if I come up here, this part is new. This send question to API was added here. And this was done by Klein when I gave it that prompt. It would have been editing this file. If I come up, where is it? Right here. It would have made some changes. This was at the start, and then it sort of came in here, and this is it right here. This is where Klein wrote this for us. In any case, let me come back here. So send question to API is brand new, and here we're sending the post request to this Zazenbot API URL. That's going to be the local service that we've defined. If I just go back to my README file, that's hitting this URL right here. Right, so it hits a post request to that, and it sends through this question. So this question here just comes through this, like when this is called, it passes that question. Let's follow the logic here. So we're getting a response, and we're passing this question context, which comes from the user. So we extract that from the user's question, and we're just kind of like stripping out the ID of the Discord bot. And this is all running inside of the on message. So every time there's a message sent, we check if the Discord bot was mentioned. This is the Discord bot itself. The client.user is the Discord bot, because it is the client that's like running in this process. And so if the bot was mentioned with the question, we pass the question to the API, we're going to get back a message, like a response, and we're going to get the answer from the response. So response.getAnswer. Now I'm going to need to make sure that that is actually what's going on. So if I go to app and I look at what is my response right here? So I have a response and I'm returning it. It comes from process question. I feel like response is going to just be a string. I don't know though. I didn't a response string. For example, right here was the response, right? And it was just a string. It's just like a string of content. So what I actually need to do is just get rid of that check completely. And I'm just going to pass back the API response like raw, like that, and just send that into the channel. Yeah, obviously if there's an error running this, then we'll trigger this exception, which is great. That's good handling, but this part isn't valid because I don't do errors in my API. Again, I probably should do that. Cool, so that's how the integration worked, and yeah, feeling good about that. So now I want to deploy this, and the way I deploy to my server is using, well, the first thing I want to do is deploy this RAG microservice into the server. Hi YouTube. So I had to stop filming this tutorial because I needed to go to work for like my job. So today is the next day, and I ended up getting this working yesterday night. So now I'm going to show you how I got it working, but then we're going to keep building it just a little bit more to make it better. I'm going to install a GitHub action so that we can deploy this automatically. And I'm also going to do like some Git stuff so that we have clean repositories. So you'll see how all that works to sort of wrap this up and finish this. By the way, that job I was talking about, I'm a data engineer for a digital marketing agency. We service some of the biggest brands in the world, and we specialize in SEO. So if your company wants help with their SEO and you want to work with me, then you should get in touch. I love the work that I get to do there. I work with big data. I get to work in Google Cloud Platform, which I love. And I get to do a lot of AI engineering work lately. Right, so let's get back to the demonstration, and I apologize for any discontinuity because we're jumping a little bit ahead right now. So the first thing I'm going to do is log into my server, and this is running, by the way, on Google Cloud. Let me show you that. So I've just logged in down here, but this is how it looks in the Google Compute platform. So compute engine and then VM instances, and I have a VM instance running right here. It's running in US Central 1. You could go ahead and connect through SSH if you wanted. Let me just sort of walk through that process. Cool, so like I'm in the same place. It sort of puts me into the wrong working directory. It tries to use my username. So if I go back and look, I want to go to Alex, sudo su, and then cd Alex. So now that this is like all of my stuff here. I just prefer to use tmux and my own like Alacrity. Right, so I'm not going to use that. But what else can I show you? I'll show you the size of this. So it's really tiny. In fact, it's so small that it's within Google's free tier. And this is the machine type. It's an E2 micro. So I get 2 virtual CPUs and 1 gigabyte of memory. This memory is really going to be limiting if I'm trying to run larger things. But for what I'm running today, this is totally fine, and I'll show you why. I'll show you how it's working. So down here inside of the server, I've been able to copy the Zazenbot code over, and I have this trivia bot right here. So I'm going to show you, if I say docker ps, it's not going to work for me. It wants to have this sudo permission. So I can type sudo su. Now when I type docker ps, it's going to work. My Zazenbot API is running, and my trivia bot is also running. Currently, these ports, like this port, is not being exposed on my local computer. There's something running on port 8000, but I'm not mapping that onto my server. So if I was to curl the local host at port 8000, and I have this health check endpoint, that doesn't work, failed to connect to that. However, we are able to talk to this service using a URL like this because of Docker's network that we're using. We're able to identify it by name. I had to make one small change to the way that I run my trivia bot in order to get it properly talking to this Zazen bot over the network. So over the Docker network. So before the integration today with my ZazenBot API, this is how things worked. I just built my trivia bot. So I would say Docker build trivia bot from this dot, so from the current Docker file. And that current Docker file would be in this Zazen Codes AI trivia bot folder. So that would look like this. And it's looking at this code here, and we're building this file here. So I have this image now, like that's been built, and now I want to run it as a container. And so that's what I do in the following line. I reference that image in order to run it, and then I just set various flags. So like my environment variable file, I'm naming it, and I have some sort of cleanup flags. I want to run it in the background. That's what the D does. But now I've commented that out because we're going to run things like this. And in particular, I want to set a network right here called ZazenBot 5000 underscore ZazenBot network. And this was the gotcha that I was screwing up before that I had to fix last night. And whereas before I was just trying to use this as my network name, Docker actually prepends the like service name or the folder name or something like that. So I get this wasn't expecting this part. So we have access to anything else that's on this network. And now I'm going to hop over to my ZazenBot 5000. In this one, he's using Docker Compose. I'm just able now to access this ZazenBot API because they're using the same network. I can also show you Docker Network LS. And check this out. So that's how I figured out that this network that I've created was called something different than I expected. It's, it has this part at the front, which I totally didn't expect because, referencing this name, like I thought this is what it would be called, but there is something we can do about that. So I'll show you that soon. First, I want to show you the demonstration, and I want to watch the logs from both of these as we do the YouTube chat. I'm going to try and, we're going to do things this way. So Docker PS, so I want to say Docker logs follow, and we're going to follow the trivia bot, follow this ZazenBot API. Okay, so here's the demo. I have my Discord server up, Zazen Chatbot, and I'm going to say, hey, welcome to the world. Tell me about the meaning of life, my friend. Okay, so you can see a bunch of outputs over here. This is working, and it dumped the result. The sources do not contain an answer about the meaning of life. Now, of course, it'd be intuitive to keep talking to it, but it has no context. Every question is going to be different. It's weird because it gave me, see, what is the nature of reality like? Pretty big question. It does have some sort of idea of the meaning of life. Anyways, let's look at the logs. So these were the only logs output from the Discord bot. They're like message received in channel. This was the message, this was what it was said, and then it was like it hit my ZazenBot API port 8000, exactly like we want to, and I got back a 200 status code, so this worked. And then I sent the message back into the channel, and so the bot is detecting that we received a new message. But because this message was from the bot, it's able to ignore that message. And then down here, this was my RAG stuff. So I'm going to start scrolling through this. So once we receive the question, we start logging some information, like what is the question. Then we're sending the question to the RAG system. We retrieved a RAG response. And there's all these contexts. These are like our grounding tokens. So we have this chunk of text is relevant to the query, and that has this title, and this is the URL of the full file that we had the match from. And then we start generating a response. So we're like, okay, we found 4 timestamps, we're the most relevant one, that's cool. These are subsequent parts of my RAG system that are working to try and pull up a good answer. And then it's doing some work with the timestamp to convert that into seconds so that it can generate the proper URL for my system, and formatting response complete. And then it sends back that post request back to my Discord bot up here, which then serves it over here. Let's do another one. How does Docker work? I love these links. I guess I'm talking about Docker. All right, so now what I want to do is get this working a little bit better. The first thing I want to do is, if I look at this restart trivia bot, I have this command here, and this is not the same that I have in my local project. So I'm just going to replace this command with the one from my server. And you'll notice this line in particular is different, the name of the network. But actually, what I'd rather do is fix the name of the network. So yeah, because ideally this is the network that's intuitive to me. So what I want to do is give the network a name. That's something I forgot to do over here. So if I go to my Zazenbot 5000 API and wherever I'm defining my network down here, I can give this thing a name. The reason I know I can do this is because I fed this problem into Gemini. I have a Docker service running on a network, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, can't these talk to each other? And it was super helpful. And it told me down here, look, dude, like you need to explicitly name the network, Zazencode's network. And so now that this network is named properly, I need to make sure I'm doing that on my server properly. So this restart trivia bot, this is now going to look like this, like I originally expected. Otherwise, I'm happy with everything else in this file. So this is going to be how I'll deploy things. But I'm deploying this trivia bot with a GitHub action. And now I just want to be able to deploy my Zazenbot the same way. So I'll show you what that looks like. If I come up here, GitHub and then /workflows, this is where GitHub actions live in my project. And I have this deploy like .yaml. So this is how it works. We're like deploying the code. I'm referencing some secrets that I have set up on GitHub. And we're deploying code to our server, and then I'm running that restart trivia bot. Check it out, right? That's the file that I keep editing. This is how I actually deploy this. And so what I want to do is deploy my my Zazenbot 5000 in the same way. So if I come over here, we're going to see if Avante can do this for us. So what I'm hoping is if I go to my README, this is to me the proper context that I want to start with. So I'm going to like make sure that's in my selected files. So I'm going to say set up a GitHub action to deploy this, very similar to this code. And lastly, I want to provide some information about the project. So I'm just going to copy that, my project directory. All right. That's a lot of good context, so see how it can do. Wow, I'm still getting this rate limit error. Try using ChatGPT for this. So, okay, I'm going to go to NeoVim over here, and we're going to use OpenAI. 4.0 mini, yeah, whatever. Okay. Yeah, cool. Now it's using OpenAI, and it's getting right to work. Yeah, so I mean, it basically copy and pasted that file. If I look at my Git, do I see this? Where is this file? I don't know if it actually created this file or not. It might have just written it here. So what I'd want to do is make a directory called GitHub workflows, and then .github workflows, and then inside of here, it's called deploy.yml. Paste that in here. So I just created this file. Okay, let's get out of Avante now. Bye. Yeah, so this looks pretty good. There's one confusing thing, which is the restart command is not correct. I'm trying to like restart Zazenbot. I don't have that file, but I suppose the best thing to do would just be to create that. Actually, what I'm going to do is just copy the restart trivia bot into the Zazenbot. So we'll just start working from the same file. So the first thing I do is copy an environment variable file into this trivia bot, which is really weird, like admittedly. I shouldn't be doing that. I'm going to try and SSH in again down there. So yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say .env .zazenbot 5000, and I'll copy that into here, but explicitly call it .env. And of course, this is different as well. This is going to just be Zazenbot 5000. So I'm copying my environment into my project. And the reason is this is running in this CI/CD pipeline thing. So this here is not going to have, this is not going to exist yet. This folder here won't exist until I actually create it. So I'm like, when I'm deploying it, right, I'm like replacing this folder. Like basically I'm saying, okay, like take everything from my local computer and just dump it here onto this deploy path. And this blows up my environment variable file. Like I don't copy that. That's not part of this process here, because I don't want to like throw my environment files around on these like random servers throughout this process. So what I do is I just keep the environment variable file on this local server, and I just copy it over after I've run the CI/CD pipeline. It's pretty hacky, I guess, but it totally works. So now we're going to go into that new folder, and then instead of docker stop, this needs to be the docker compose. So I'll say sudo docker compose down, and then I'll say sudo docker compose up -- build. And I don't need any of this stuff for this guy. This is just how I'm going to deploy this one. By the way, I'm not able to SSH in again. Maybe this is like a limitation of, you know, using like this shitty free tier server. But I'm feeling pretty good about this. I'm gonna start moving some stuff. I'm gonna start doing some Docker stuff. So we're gonna want to stop these services because I'm gonna redeploy all of this stuff. So for here, I'll say sudo su, and I'll say docker compose down. Now it's not able to remove my network resource still in use. That's totally expected. It's because of this trivia bot. And for this one, I need to say, well, what do I say? I could say docker stop trivia bot. Okay, so now if I do docker ps, everything's done. Which is exactly what I want. Now this guy here, he's gonna be part of my CI/CD pipeline. I'm just gonna move him to some like temporary file. I can remove this in a moment. This one needs chmod plus x. It needs executable privileges. Now it'll be green, so we know that we're good to go. And I need my environment file over here. So I'm gonna copy this, whatever I have in my environment, back over in my server. I need this file available as .env.zazenbot 5000, and I'm going to paste that in here. So I'm cool with these. This one here is not correct anymore. Like this file does not exist. But actually what I did to get this working was when I went into my Zazenbot 5000 old, and then I had this credentials, and then I called it Google credentials, like here. So what I'm going to do is copy that right here so that I have that available here. I'm actually just going to, I'm just going to move it to a hidden file. Okay, so now it's like hidden, but it's still here. This is Google credentials.json, and I'm going to make sure that this is the location I'm specifying in my .env file. You'll see why all this is going to work. So if I go to vim.env.zazenbot like this, and we're going to go like this. So home alex.google credentials.json. Cool. Okay. Yeah. So that's going to now reference this path right here to the credentials that I need. Okay, so I'm ready to deploy this thing. So over here, I've got all these secrets, and I need to just set these up. So let me do that, and then we'll run this. Okay, so I will go over to the settings over here, down to secrets and variables actions, and I'm going to say new repository secret. Okay, so I've got these secrets set up for my GitHub action for Zazenbot 5000, which means I'm ready to try and deploy this thing. So I'm going to just kind of clean up my Git stuff. So I'm going to go to lazy Git, and I'll add this deploy, GitHub action. I'll add, so the README's been updated. Yeah, we got some stuff. Okay, so I'm going to just say update with curl examples. What else did I do? Okay, And then, yeah, so the integration guide and Docker Compose belong together. So I'm going to say add network, add Docker network. And yeah, I just want to confirm that if I look at my Docker Compose, yeah, so I'm naming it now. So that's a change that I did today. Okay, so let's push this. And I don't know if this is going to trigger my GitHub action or not, but we can check it out. So over on GitHub now, if I click on actions, yeah, so this is running. Add Docker network, that's the name of my latest commit. And because I pushed it to main branch, this is actually going to be running right now. And it broke. Okay. Yeah, it broke on the restart line. Restart Zazenbot, no directory, no file or directory. I guess that's what I get for not using Claude. Okay, so I just need to add this. Oh, CD deploy path like this. Well, no, I didn't want it. Oh boy. Okay, I get it. Okay, this is what I want. Let's try this again. I'm gonna restart step. Hopefully it actually is fixed. Okay, so I pushed that, which means I should have a new, here we go. So we're running a new action. Nice. Okay, so it was able to restart and it looks like it's running, which is amazing. Oh, you know what? I didn't restart it in detached mode. So this is just gonna keep running forever or until it times out. Okay, I'm gonna cancel it. Let's fix that. So when I restart it, oh, this actually has to be done on my server. Down here. So, oh yeah, okay, read Docker Compose up -D, like that. Detached mode and build. Maybe the D is at the end. Up, I don't know. Well, we'll see. Okay, so yeah, I wanna actually show you that this is completely working. This is a super hack, but I'm just gonna add a new line here. And I'm just gonna, so I can see it's changed. So just say update to retry workflow. So that's exactly what we'll see over here. Great, so now it's started in the proper detached mode and we have our green check mark on our GitHub action, which is awesome, exactly what we want. That's cool. So over here, if I do Docker PS, this is running. It just started right now. And so now we're going to start the trivia bot. And in order to do that, I can use its GitHub action. So inside of here, git status, I've got a few different changes. So let's handle those with lazy git. This commit is going to have the entire integration. So I'm going to add all of these, 5,000 integration. And then I'll push that. And now I can check on the status of that GitHub action. So that's over here, different project. And here it goes. Cool, so that one's done as well. So now I can see that it's running here, Trivia Bot. And let's do the final test. Okay, now in terms of the Docker logs, it looks like I'm not able right now to connect to a second instance of this. I don't know why, but maybe it's just really stressed out. Like, yeah, so I only have 100 megabytes of free storage memory. Anyway, whatever. The interesting logs I want to see is this Zazenbot. So I'm going to connect to those logs. And let's try this out on Discord. Let's say, how does fine tuning work? Uh-oh. Couldn't find Zazenbot 8000. Oh, look at this. I'm getting an error. So it's the wrong error, which is weird in and of itself. That seems to be a problem. But the real problem, I think, is this right here. It can't find app credentials, Google credentials. Literally just the problem is that I added that dot. That's what's screwing this all up. But I can fix that over here. So what it is now this needs to just have a dot on it. I think that's going to fix everything because now I'll be sharing this volume. Oh, that volume's not going to be correct anymore on my server unless I have this credentials file, unless this actually exists. So I need an extra step. as in this step here, I need something similar. So I need to say copy recursively credentials into this Zazenbot 5000. That should work. I'll need to create that. And then I'll need to move my Google credentials inside of that. Okay. So now what's happening is I have this environment file, which I need to copy into here when I deploy it. I also have this credentials file, which I need to copy into here as well when I deploy it. And just to prove to you that like these are how this is working, let me do one final test here. Okay, so this is going to be a real make or break type thing. So I'm going to make a new folder and I'm just going to call it archive, and I'm going to move this guy here into the archive, and then I'm just going to delete this one here. So now you'd agree that this is like a clean setup. Nothing is going to be running properly. I guess my Docker stuff still is, but probably should have stopped these ahead of time. Maybe I can just stop it by the name like this. Okay, now everything's totally clean here, and I can redeploy this stuff. So I'm going to say update to redeploy. So the Discord trivia bot is now being redeployed, and we'll probably see it appear here soon. Oh, I got to push it. And meanwhile, I need to deploy my Zazenbot as well. This one I did make a change. I just changed this credentials path. Okay, now over in my server, I should start to see both of these appear. Okay, here's this one too. If my GitHub actions are working, they should both be up and running, which they are. And we can test them out again. So let's hit it with the exact same prompt. Nice. Okay, it actually worked this time. Awesome. I do have to say though, it needs some prompt engineering. It definitely needs some engineering work, because even though it's working functionally, this is not a good match for fine tuning. I have a much better video on that. I was hoping it would come up with this one, this fine tuning for image recognition maybe, but yeah, didn't do that very well. But at least it's working, which has been the point of today's demonstration. So that's all I have for you today. If you've enjoyed this video and if you've got this far, you've got to leave me a like and consider subscribing if you want to see more content like this. These actions really help me out a lot on YouTube. So just to remind you what we did, we built a VertexAI reg microservice, and I've got that talking to a Discord bot. In today's video, I connected these two things over a Docker network, but I have a previous video where I show how this reg microservice works, how exactly I built this. It's a great guide for getting started using VertexAI on GCP. So I'm going to leave that video over here for you. And I've got a different video on how I built the Discord bot, and I'm going to leave that video over here for you. So thank you for watching today, and namaste.